So we're now joined by UMALUSI Spokesperson Biki Lepota, and he joins us via our video link. Biki, thank you so much for joining us this evening here on SABC News. Of course, looking at that report back by UMALUSI, quite notable is, of course, the issues around that there was no paper leaks. And I must say that this seems like a lot of progress here in terms of trying to secure those matric papers.
That's correct. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Good evening to you and to the listeners and viewers of your TV station. You're quite correct. We are encouraged by the fact that in a very long time, we have not had any paper leakages this year. As the CEO of UMALUSI indicated during his introductory remarks, we applaud the efforts of everybody involved who ensured that we no longer have issues such as paper leakages. But at the same time, UMALUSI we continue to express our concern with regard to the detected cases of group copying in some of our provinces. But what we wanting to report to the nation is that the assessment body concerned is continuing with the investigations. We are awaiting a final report in this regard. Whereas the number of 945 was mentioned, we cannot say this is the total number. In the final analysis, it is highly likely that the numbers could go up or they could go down or remain where they are. So we wanting to highlight the fact that the investigations are ongoing in this regard.
And talking about those concerns in which were raised by the CEO, I mean, it is the fraudulent certificates here, and I understand that most of them being from the Limpopo region. Where were the other errors found when it comes to group copying in particular? Then we'll deal with printing quality and the errors in question papers a bit later.
Just to clarify, in terms of the fake certificates, we did indicate that the SAPS did arrest some of these fraudsters or suspects in the Limpopo province. But that does not necessarily mean that these are people who originate from Limpopo. We simply say that's where the people were arrested, and the investigations are ongoing. And they will be appearing in the courts during the month of January. Now, coming back to the issue of printing errors, yes, we did express a concern with regard to that, because that resulted in some learners having to have some mechanisms being introduced during the marking process. And here we cited an example of the civil technology subject with its 3 specialization, where marks have had to be taken out of the marking process because of the printing errors. We also spoke about other concerns such as translation quality. In this case, the CEO did speak about the geography question paper, where when it was translated from English into Afrikaans to enable learners who receive tuition through the medium of Afrikaans to participate in the exam using the language through which they receive tuition. That's where mistakes happen. But it's not like it affected the whole question paper. Yeah. It was one question out of the many questions in that question paper, but measures that have been agreed upon and have been in use for some time now have had to be implemented to shield learners from that kind of an error.
And when it comes to group copying, I mean, this is an area of concern as well, because, I mean, it clearly just shows this was something that was clearly coordinated. Where would you say the problems were found when it comes to group copying? And would you say that this is the first time you are picking it up, or it's something that's always been there that you continue to try and deal with as UMALUSI?
Group copying remains one of our major concerns. It's not only a concern to UMALUSI, it's also a concern to all the assessment bodies. What we did indicate earlier today is that compared to the previous times, we are encouraged by the fact that the reported numbers this year are way below those reported in 2022, because if you remember, in 2022, we had upwards of 1,900 candidates being implicated. And as we speak, some of those learners have been found guilty because the investigations have been concluded. Coming back to 2023, we are talking about a number of upwards of 940 learners But here we are saying the investigations are going on. They have the department concerned has not concluded the investigation. It is only at the point when the final reports are submitted to UMALUSI where we will be able to say, here are the final numbers, and this is how the cases have been dealt with. But in the approval statement issued today, we did indicate that the results of everybody who is implicated in this case, they must have their result blocked pending finalization of the investigation by the assessment body consent and verification by UMALUSI.
What lessons have been learned by the education bodies, especially looking at from 2022 to 2023, and those lessons which will help you when you compile the exams for 2024?
Thank you for the question. What normally happens at the end of all these processes every year, we sit and we reflect, we look at all the reports presented, we look at areas of concern, and those areas are assessed, are highlighted in our quality assurance of assessment reports, which get submitted to the relevant assessment bodies. We do give them deadlines to say, these are the major areas which came out of the processes of the previous examination session. We would like you to please, we're actually directing you to address them and come back to us and tell us how you're going to address them so that we avoid recurrence of such. On the basis of our analysis of trends and patterns over the years, we are seeing that some of the cases are going down, they are reducing. The case in point is the one that we have just spoken about, the group copying. So we are also encouraged by the fact that the quarterly meetings that we enter into with the assessment bodies concerned to look at the progress, to track progress, they are yielding results. We're also encouraged by the commitment of the many people who participate in the examination system. As we did indicate, this is a massive, massive system. Beginning with the people who teach these learners from January to end of the year, going on to the examiners and internal moderators and everybody concerned whose responsibility it is to ensure that learners receive the scripts at the time of writing the exam and their scripts get marked and the marks get put on the computer system for UMALUSI to standardize the results, after which those results will then be approved for the assessment bodies to release them. So we are encouraged by what we are seeing, but what we wanting to indicate that one of the most difficult things to do is to police human behavior, to say I will police each and every single student in the system. The numbers this year, we're sitting at over 1,100,000. So we are relying on the individuals who are participating, the learners and their parents. And what encourages us the most is that this year, the Department of Basic Education implemented what we call pledges, which were signed by both the learners and the parents to say, I commit to not involve myself in any act of dishonesty. So if you look at the numbers year-on-year comparison, we are seeing that they are coming down, and that is a sign that things are happening in the system.